Chapter 13, Prayer Practice for Human Needs. During the course of this book, we have presented some ideas about prayer and your relationship with God and the universe that may have been shocking, possibly even sacrilegious to you. We have stressed the idea that prayer is not about God. It is about you and your consciousness of God. Prayer is not about attempting to reach God, to communicate with Him, to convince Him of your worthiness, or to plead for help in your human needs. Jesus made it very clear that God knows what you need even before you pray. More than that, God doesn't have what you need. God is what you need. We have used the words God and universe interchangeably. That may well have been a foreign idea to you. But if God is all, can there be anything more than the all? This means the universe, the whole of things. The reason I like to use the word universe is that it is impersonal, free from our hang-ups about where God is and what His will for us may be. We live in an expanding universe where growth is the nature of things. As creatures of the universe, we have a built-in restless urge to unfold, to rise to the heights of our innate possibilities. The universe is calling. It is a ceaseless longing in the mind of the universe to outpicture in us that which we are created to become. Prayer is not something you do to God or say to God or a performance you put on for God. It is, in silence, finding that point in you where God is being you. You may feel that you have long since let go of the anthropomorphic idea of God. But if you are observant, you may realize that you still refer to God beside me, God within me, God guiding me, God healing me. So God is still something separate from you. You may talk about getting into the presence, but you can never get out of the presence, for the presence is present, all present, omnipresent. You may say you are practicing the presence of God, but if your thought embraces a belief in separation, God and you are actually practicing the absence of God. To practice the presence is to practice oneness, not God and me, but God, the universal creative process expressing itself as me. So you can only know God as you know yourself. Without self-realization, the contemplation of God is simply dealing with an intellectual abstraction, and any prayer effort that deals only with the abstraction is an intellectual cul-de-sac, a dead-end street to nowhere. When Jesus says, "No man cometh unto the Father but by me," John 14, verse 6, He is saying that you can't reach God in shrines or cathedrals out there unless you first become aware of God within. By me means through the I am of your nature. We have called this chapter Prayer Practice for Human Needs, but it is important to realize that there is actually only one problem. Theologians call it sin. Paul says the wages of sin is death. Romans 6, verse 23. Sin is the consciousness of separation, and the one and only solution to the one basic problem is to reestablish a sense of oneness, to get recentered in the divine flow. Last year, we received a lovely plant for Christmas. It was a small live bush that had been filled out and shaped like a Christmas tree by inserting into the foliage many additional branches, which were, thus, not a part of the plant. The result was a strikingly beautiful tree, but as the weeks passed, the supplementary branches wilted and died, for they were not connected to the plant's main trunk and rootage system. They were separated from the renewing life energy. They were living in sin, thus they died. Can you see how futile it would have been to pray for these branches to bear fruit or to flower? Can you see the parallel with life's experiences? Wherever there is a challenge or need, there is somewhere in consciousness a sense of separation. And try as you may to heal the cut or bring order to the confused condition, unless you get recentered with the divine flow within, any other efforts to heal the condition will be like applying a Band-Aid. A true healing can only come through remembering who you are, a spiritual being in a spiritual universe. Thus, prayer is not fixing fruit on the separated branches. It is getting in tune with the integrity of the tree and its branch and leaf system, blessing the branches that are alive and seeing them rich with fruit. Often we are so busy trying to effect a miracle that we fail to see the natural outworking that comes if we get in tune. If you owned a mountain cabin and wanted to make it fresh and habitable again after a long winter being shuttered up, you would not have to induce the air to enter the doors or to plead with light to enter the unshuttered windows. The moment you open the doors and windows, the wind and the sunshine surge in. This is an excellent illustration of our relationship with divine flow. We have thought of God as one who could help if we took our troubles to him and unburdened ourselves on his broad shoulders. But as I have said, don't take your troubles to God. God isn't into troubles. Jesus says, your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Matthew 6, verse 8. But God doesn't know of your lack. A need is a vessel to be filled, but lack is a state of mind. God knows the need, and it is his good pleasure to give you the kingdom. But God can't change your attitude of lack. God doesn't sit up there in his billowy cloud heaven before a great panel of flashing lights, watching your prayer requests cause a light on your name to flash on. Imagine, God says, oh yes, there is a call from Eric Butterworth. He's been pretty good lately. I will go down and help him. Maybe, he adds, when I can get to it. Prayer is not a way to turn on the light in God, but to turn on the light in yourself, and God is that light. The question is asked, if God is a presence who knows our needs even before we ask, then why are we told to ask? That is a good question. The idea of asking God for help through prayer has become a fixation in our consciousness. I say, don't ask God for help at any time. If God were the anthropomorphic being we have seen him as being, can't you imagine that he would be insulted? When despite the fact that in our creation we have been endowed with everything we ask for and more, he might say, such ingratitude. Doesn't the Bible say we should ask God for help? If you look up the word ask, as it is used in the Old and New Testaments, you would find that both the Hebrew and the Greek words for ask have a strong connotation of claim and demand. When the landlord comes to the door, he might say, I have come to ask for the rent. He is not asking for a contribution. He is demanding that which is due. When you go to the parking garage to retrieve your car, you present the claim check and you ask for your car, but you are claiming that which is yours by title. When you hold your cup under a water faucet and open the tap, you are not begging for, but demanding water. The Old Testament says, concerning the works of my hands, command ye me. Isaiah 45, verse 11. All the life, substance, and intelligence of spirit are yours. All that you can accept. Prayer is not begging for handouts. It is claiming your rightful inheritance. Life is consciousness. When you form the consciousness that makes the result inevitable, your answer will manifest itself. For a healing need, work for the realization that health is natural. Let go of the sickness syndrome. How often have you heard, I have gone 3 months without a cold. I have really been lucky. Modern medical research is rapidly approaching the view that sickness doesn't belong in the human experience. We have been told God created man upright, but he has sought out many inventions. Sickness is an invention of human consciousness. Health is natural. The illness is simply a concealment of the allness. But there is always in you that which is whole, an allness that is present even within your illness. Your prayer for healing should not be an attempt to fight sickness, but to know and release your wholeness. Remember, in divine mind, there is a perfect counterpart to any disease or weakened cell or organ of the body. This is the basis of spiritual healing. Within you is the unborn possibility of limitless life, and yours is the privilege of giving birth to it. Paul says, awake thou that sleepest, and Christ shall give thee light. Ephesians 5, verse 14. Haven't you fantasized about waking up one morning to find that all the trials and difficulties of your life have disappeared? That it was all just a bad dream? That fantasy originates in the universe calling you to come up higher. Your prayer is not to convince God to give you something that you don't have. Rather, it is to awaken the realization of your wholeness in God mind, the perfect spiritual counterpart to the human limitation. The answer to your prayer, thus, is not something that is given to you from other sources, by divine fiat, or even by mental manipulation. It is an answer that was present in the universe even before you began to pray. And as a matter of fact, even if you do not know it, your decision to turn to prayer was an intuitive response to the universe calling you, which came first. Thus, if we really understand the healing process, we would realize that the universe seeks to enfold you in healing life to a degree even greater than you desire it for yourself. Gibran reflects this amazing insight when he says that it is God's will in us that wills and his desire in us that desires. For a prosperity need, first, we need to get out of the pie-in-the-sky concept of prayer that suggests a Brinks truck rolling up to your door bringing bags of currency and coins. There is no magic and certainly no miracle involved in the demonstration of abundance in our lives. Prayer deals in consciousness. When you have a lack consciousness, you inhibit the natural flow of the universe in your life. This consciousness frustrates jobs and salaries and general income, as a beaver's dam effectively blocks the flow of a stream. And when you have a prosperity consciousness, you are consciously in the flow of the abundance of the universe that rushes and streams and pours into you from all sides. There is no lack in the universe. Lack is simply a state of mind that separates us from the divine flow. Don't let lack become part of your prayer. Know the truth of omnipresent supply. Don't pray for lack, unemployment, or failure, for this serves to emphasize them and treats them as if they were real. Let your prayer be to establish you in the awareness that you live and move and have your being in a sea of infinite substance, as a fish lives in water. There is a divine mind counterpart for every human need. There is an answer for every problem, substance for every financial requirement, and a job for every willing worker. The economic indicators may not tell you this. You need to tell it to yourself, for economics is a spiritual process. As far as your experience in the marketplace is concerned, you make the difference. Take time occasionally to visualize yourself settling comfortably in the universal flow of substance, cascading into you and through you. Then you might want to speak the word of truth. I am prospered and successful, not to make it true, but to identify with that which is true. Making decisions. Get the realization that there is an answer in God mind even before you ask, and you are a state of consciousness in God mind. Do not try to make a decision ever. Your need is to discover a decision. So let go the pressures of standing at a crossroads, fearing that a wrong choice will be a disaster. Emerson had the conviction that there is guidance for us at all times, and by lowly listening, we will always hear the right word. The frustration of decisions is the fear of making the wrong ones. It is important to know that you can't make a wrong decision. The choice you make will lead you into the experience you need to earn the right to the higher consciousness in which a more productive choice will be made, for life is growth. You may want to affirm, I know what to do and I do it. And as you speak those words, you tune into a conscious flow, which is the condition that makes the result inevitable. If you are facing a crossroad decision, write out some of the pros and cons of the project. Ask yourself some pertinent questions such as, what do I really want and why? Then lay it all aside, give it an incubation period. Finally, at a predetermined alive line, deadline is too negative, have your prayer. Relax and get a sense of complete release. Go inward to feel your oneness with the guiding intelligence of the universe. Affirm, I know what to do and I do it. Then do it and it will be right. In every need for direction or decision, the universe is calling. Prayer is a kind of listening, not expecting to hear a voice, but to feel a presence, a guidance. It is common to think of prayer as constant treatment or spoken words of affirmation, but the words are a conditioning of our own consciousness that are of little help unless we listen. Otherwise, it is like a student coming to a classroom, telling the teacher some things, leaving before the instruction begins, then saying, "They don't teach you anything in this school." Your diligent practice of the science of prayer should give you a deep feeling of respect for the guidance principle and lead you to trust the process. Prayer for a business or any activity in which you are interested. Every business or activity of people has a certain mental atmosphere of its own. This energy pattern decides what will be drawn to it, and this is what we have to work with. Let go of your preconceptions and prejudices, your memory of injustices and unjust people, and of course your own anxious concern about it. It takes only one person to open a window or to turn on the air conditioning unit, and it takes only one person to start the prayer conditioning process. Relax, let go, move into the still point. Reflect on the flow of the universal harmony, then affirm, divine order and harmony are now established in this business or office or school or church or political assembly. Remember, we are dealing with a creative process that needs only a channel, not a ritual or a well-formulated spiritual treatment. Care must be used to keep from thinking that the treatment or the words are making things happen. The point is, the divine process is already in you. You don't have to do anything or reach for anything. You don't have to contact God and beg for a miracle. You need only to know, really know, that the universe is calling. Listen, accept, and be. Admittedly, prayer may seem at times to work wonders, but the wonder-working potential is always within you, waiting to be released. You may think that I oversimplify by outlining the prayer technique as I have, and I admit that I am making it appear simple, but it is eminently simple. Of course, let me add, it is not easy. It takes much practice and discipline, but the reward is great. Jesus called it the life more abundant. The formula. In readying your mind for a prayer experience, always remember that there is a divine mind counterpart for every human need. In other words, whatever you are seeking to pray about, there is an answer that is at once a pattern and a plan for its unfoldment. You do not make this answer. It exists within the depths of your superconscious mind, even before you have the awareness of a need. And the very fact that you are approaching the situation in prayer means that you have intuitively sensed that the universe is calling. Take a few moments to reflect on just what it is that you are praying about. Be clear on this. Can you imagine an airline pilot taking off, and when he has reached the cruising altitude and the plane is leveled, letting go of the controls and saying, "I wonder where the plane is going to take us today"? Think about that. Have a period of relaxation. If necessary, go through a drill in relaxing the various parts of the body. Visualize your body falling into a heap on the floor like a limp dish rag. Hold your arms out and form two tight fists, and imagine that all you are concerned about is within those two fists. Then unclasp the fists and let your arms drop into your lap, and all the concerns fall off to the floor beneath. Concentrate your attention on a point of light deep within your mind. This is the still point, the point where the allness of God becomes the eachness of you. Let yourself float gently down into the deep well of the mind, and as you come closer to that point of light, it becomes larger and larger, as if you were coming close to the fiery orb of the sun. Eventually, you go right into and through the light, and now you don't see the light. You are enlightened, and you see from light. Rest quietly in this awareness. This is the ground of being on which your prayer builds. Feel the infusion of energy and life and light. Remain in this awareness for 5 or 10 minutes. Now, for the first time, call to mind that for which you want to pray. It may be a person, a condition, some financial need, or perhaps healing for yourself. Remember, you are in the light, and your prayer is the projection of this light, whether by words of truth, affirmation, or treatment, or simply as a way to focus your light on the issue. Above all, remember that you do not pray to God. You pray for whatever you want from the consciousness of God. Don't be tense or anxious. Quietly, lovingly, with no sense of urgency, speak your word of truth, or just see the projection of light. Feel grateful, and then, amen. So be it. It is done. It is finished. How often should you pray for this matter? As often as you find yourself slipping in consciousness into fear or worry. Praying too often indicates that you are being motivated by worry. The ideal is to let go so completely that you forget you had a problem. Or, if it comes to mind, you just visualize a focus of light going forth to illumine and bless. This is a process. Don't make a ritual out of it. Adapt it in any way you desire to make it suitable for your consciousness. Just remember, you are not praying to God. You are praying from the consciousness of God.